Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things that I have learned as I have grown into the person that I am today. And I was going to do a video outside. It's cloudy outside, but it was really warm. It's like 60 degrees, 59, 60 degrees when I was driving around getting my coffee. Where's my... I forgot my coffee, it's over there. Anyway, but I have Tukey. Come on, Tukey. And Tucker's over here. They just ate their dinner, and it is currently 4:48 p.m. I'm gonna go do some shopping with my good Judy Tanya here in just a second. We've got to run to the Meijer. I was gonna do a video outside, and I just looked outside, and it's raining. So I was gonna sit right on the patio floor. I was gonna sit on the patio floor and do a meditation video, and I looked outside, and it's raining. So I guess that's not gonna happen today. But I do have several meditation books here. I have, let's see, I'm counting them. I don't have my glasses on, I can't do math. I have 7 meditation books, so I'm gonna read from one of these. Which one do you think that we should read from today? Huh? I almost called him Boo Radley. Tukey, which one? He said, I don't care. Okay, so I'm just gonna randomly pick one. Let's see. I picked Time to, oh, you wanted to pick one? Okay. Time to Be Free, Daily Meditations for Enhancing Your Self-Esteem. Do you wanna pick one now? He said, Dad, they're all so good. You think they're all so good? He said, Dad, you're crazy. You don't want to pick one? Okay. And then I'm going to pick another one, and it is Seek Sobriety, Find Serenity. I rarely ever read from this one, so we'll see what these two have to say. Okay, let's read the Self-Esteem one first. What is today? March 12th. March 12th. Happy March 12th. He said, that doesn't mean anything to me. Okay, March 12th. As we've progressed spiritually, our beliefs about success and achievement have changed dramatically. Each of us is unique in God's eyes. We have come from different backgrounds, are led along different paths, and have individual destinies. That being the case, what standards do we apply to determine who is successful and who is not? What sort of measuring stick can we use to gauge achievement? Clearly, what constitutes success for one person may not be success for another. We used to believe that a person had arrived if he or she had achieved certain material goals. Today we believe that the joy is in the journey, that successes come along the way, that there is no ending. We are less driven and more flexible in our pursuit of material goals today, because our overriding objective is to seek and do God's will. If we find that our goals are not harmonious or in accord with His plan for us, we are free to modify or discard them. If success comes to us, we try to accept it with humility, for we have come to believe that any successes we have are more God's doing than our own. Thought for today: my life is successful because of my trust in God and my willingness to do His will. You know, it's interesting because I get comments on my videos a lot that people will say, you know, I'm an atheist or I'm agnostic and I don't believe spiritually and, you know, a certain God. And the other day, I think it was about a week and a half ago in my vlog, I went in and very specifically talked about what my idea is of my higher power, and kind of how I got to that journey, and it probably would surprise you. I haven't talked about it specifically on here, but I don't believe in any uniform higher power or God. It's kind of a collective for me of many different ideas that I have that are basically centered around the ideas of compassion, love, and kindness, forgiveness, understanding, tolerance. That I achieve to be like that, you know, and continue to grow on a daily basis. So I don't pull from any just one religious idea, you know, I actually pull from many and then my own, and, you know, there are so many different ideas out there of what is right, and I don't believe that, you know, as long as it's something positive, I try to take pieces of it and, you know, apply it to my life. So, you know, what I love was when I get comments and people are like, I'm not a religious person, you know, whatever, or I'm not a spiritual person, but I really relate to that meditation. And I think that this is a meditation that if you took out all of the God pieces from it, you know, and you read between the lines, it's really talking about comparing ourselves to others. And this has been a real lesson for me in my life, you know, that to not compare myself to others, that I am on my own individual journey and my journey is different than other people's. And all of the things that have lined up to get me where I'm at today are so specific and different than other people's. But it still, you know, gets me to a point where I was even talking about this on my vlog last night, that I wondered, like, what had happened if I had been more involved in high school, you know, and if I had, you know, gone to the games and been part of something. And I kind of, in retrospect, wish I had been, you know, that I think, but it wasn't just because of the drugs and the alcohol. I was so anti-establishment, you know, but I didn't go to any high school dances. I didn't go to any football games or any basketball games. And I always kind of wonder, like, what my life would have been like if I had. You know, I also wonder, like, if I, you know, hadn't been an alcoholic and an addict. but I am, you know, and I also had wondered, like, if I hadn't gotten sober then, or if I'd gotten sober earlier, you know? So I think about these things, but today I kind of trust the journey that I'm on. That doesn't mean that I don't, like, fantasize about, like, what my life would have been, you know? And I was talking about my book club partner, Mel. One of her favorite books that she recently read was Pat Conroy's Prince of Tides. And in the Prince of Tides, there's at the very end, I know in the movie, I don't know if it's in the book, but in the movie, Nick Nolte, as he's driving, I think it's Nick Nolte, he's driving over the bridge, and he's talking about he has a wife and a family at home, but he's kind of fallen in love with this psychiatrist who's played by Barbra Streisand. And he says, if for every man there were 2 lives, you know, and I think about that sometimes, like, if there really were, you know, different lives, and last night in my vlog I got talking about multiple dimensions and things like that, because I've read a lot of books about that. You know, but I think one of the things, the greatest lessons I've ever learned is not to compare myself to other people. And I've always kind of felt behind because, you know, I got sober and then I graduated later than everybody else and I went to grad school later than everybody else. But, you know, I have to say a defining moment for me in my life was when I went to my 20-year high school reunion. And this is weird because this summer is my 30-year high school reunion. And I really felt like I needed to go. And all of a sudden, like the last couple days, I was kind of like, I don't know that I'm gonna go. Like, I don't know that that's something that I need to do anymore, you know? And I went to my 20-year high school reunion, and I was in the best shape of my life. I did not have the most exciting job at the time, you know? And it was like, but I went there and, like, I didn't have a $500,000 house, you know, I didn't drive any extraordinary car. It was no material things, right? But, like, it was early in my relationship, and, you know, Alex and I were traveling a lot, and we were having a lot of fun, and, you know, people would see pictures on it, and they'd be like, oh my God, you have the most fun life. I wish my life were like yours. And all of these people that I thought, like, had this picture-perfect life, you know, with the house with the white picket fence, and they had all of this, and the 3.5 kids, and the perfect marriage and stuff, you know, were coming up to me and telling me that they wish they had had my life, or they wish they had my life. And these were people that gave me a hard time in high school. They didn't want anything to do with my life, you know what I mean? And it was kind of like this wake-up call for me where I had compared myself to so many people that on paper like had the perfect life. And what I realized was, you know, in my small little condo and us taking little trips and us having fun and going salsa dancing on Thursday nights, you know, and, you know, having barbecues with his family and, you know, hanging out with my dad and my stepmom and, you know, going out and doing stuff with our friends and hanging out with the dogs, like that world was so perfect for me, you know? And what I realized was I have to trust the journey, and where I'm at is exactly where I'm supposed to be. And it's one of my favorite lines in the world. And it's something that we say a lot in recovery, but where you're at is exactly where you're supposed to be, you know? And you know, a couple years ago, I had a friend of mine say to me, I shared it on here actually, I think I did a whole Peterisms video about it, about, you lose by comparison, you know? And that if we're constantly comparing ourselves to what we think somebody else has, or what they look like on paper, or what they look like on Facebook, that we're gonna lose by comparison. We're always gonna pick the people that have the better house, have the better car, seemingly have the better life, right? When in reality, that's probably not true. They really probably don't, you know? I don't know. And would you really want their life anyway? I don't know. We all, you know, I think you see what you want to see when you look at all of that stuff. And so I think it's such a great meditation, you know? And it says on here, you know, we have come from different backgrounds, or led along different paths, and have individual destinies. That being the case, what standards do we apply to determine who is successful and who is not? What sort of measuring stick can we use to gauge achievement? Clearly, what constitutes success for one person may not be success for another. I never wanted to be a president of a company, you know? I never wanted to wear a three-piece suit and be a courtroom trial attorney. I never wanted that, you know? I never wanted to, don't get me wrong, I'd love to have $1 million in the bank, but that wasn't important to me, you know what I mean? But it was important to me to have a very colorful house filled with plants and candles, you know? It was important for me to complete a book. It didn't really matter if it was ever a bestseller. It was important to me to have, you know, friends of mine that had memories and were heartstones to me. It was, you know, important to me to continue to have a love of music because my mother did all her life, you know? And I think an appreciation and an awe and wonder for new things like my father has. You know, I always wanted to kind of live this bohemian lifestyle, and it may not look like I do, sitting in a chair every day with a sweatshirt on, whatever, but I have a lot of fun, you know? And I wouldn't be happy. I'm not the person that would be happy if I was going into some executive job, and I don't judge others for that. I have friends of mine that do those kinds of things, and they love it. They love what they do. They love sitting behind a desk all day long and, you know, figuring things out. That's not me. I couldn't do it, you know, and I knew that from a very, very young age. So I think it's about, you know, what is success in your eyes, you know? I mean, maybe success to you is learning how to quilt and doing a quilt. I saw this woman today at the post office, and she was coming in and she looked so earthy and stuff, and then she had this bumper sticker on her car and it said, "I love to quilt," and I loved that. You know, it's like maybe success for you is that you want to put together this quilt of all of these old things that you had when you were growing up, you know? Maybe success to you is completing a book like I did, or writing a poem. You know, maybe success to you is, you know, graduating from high school or college or graduate school. Maybe success for you is that your kids graduate, you know, from high school and you've raised them and they're on their own. You know, one of the, I think the things we don't talk about in our society, and I've talked about this for a long time, is that being a parent is a very, very real career, you know? And years ago, I, you know, knew this woman, and she, like, she said to me, she said, "I feel like I'm in retirement." And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" And she was like, you know, like all of a sudden, she was like, "My kids aren't going to school anymore." And I just kind of realized it looking at the calendar. She's like, you know, they're not going to be starting school next week. Like, they're done with school, right? Like, my job is done. Being a parent is a very, very real career, you know? And I think often that it's kind of like, well, anybody can do it. And everybody does do it to some degree, right? They have kids. I mean, today it's almost kind of like there are certain people that are choosing not to have children, right? Like my husband and I. But it's a very, very real career, you know, to raise your children and to raise your children well, and, you know, to set boundaries and to be a good parent, you know, mother or father, grandparents as well that serve as parents, you know, and aunts and uncles and things like that. It's a very, very real career that I think sometimes we don't acknowledge. You know, there's no gold pen at the end of it. You know, there's no, you know, retirement party. It's just as one day it's kind of like you've moved on to the next thing and your kids have graduated from high school and they're 18, 19 going to college or starting to work or living in apartments of their own, you know, and it's kind of like that time has passed and it's like there was no acknowledgement of it one way or another. I've often thought that, you know, for graduation parties, we should also have retirement parties for parents. I really do, you know. I really think that we need to acknowledge more the job that parents do. And, you know, I was very blessed. My mom worked a lot when I was growing up off and on, but she was really a stay-at-home mom. And it was a decision that she and my father had made, you know, when they got separated, that they wanted my mom to be a stay-at-home mom. And, you know, she was in a position where she could do that financially. And so when she worked, it was because she wanted to work and the things, but later she had to work, you know. So anyway, I feel blessed that I had a mom that was, you know, home and things like that. And, you know, she used to later, there were a couple years where I was in junior high that she was working really, really hard. And she felt like, you know, she felt bad about that. She was like, "I wish I would have been at home when you got home." And she used to call me, you know, she would say like, you know, like, I feel bad that you have to come into the house by yourself and whatever. And I really didn't care, you know, but she was like, you know, she felt bad about it. And I think I look at this, you know, I look at my mom who is an active alcoholic, but she did her best to be the best parent that she could, you know. And I paint a picture of talking about my mom as an alcoholic a lot, but there were a lot of really, really amazing things that my mother did. And she was a fantastic parent, you know. She tried her best. She did her best, as I think most parents do. And, you know, I don't think that most parents, I think there are some out there, okay, that just are heartless and whatever, but I would say that that's probably about less than 1%. I think that most parents, you know, look at their children and want to do the best. They want their children to have more than they did. They want their children to be successful. Why would we want for any less than that, you know? So maybe success for you is having your children grow up and be fine adults, you know? I think that one of the greatest compliments you can give somebody is to say, you know, you did a great job raising your child. I don't miss a chance to say that to my best friend because her son is one of the finest young men I have ever met in my entire life. And very respectful, very polite, served our country. And I'm very proud that he calls me Uncle Peter, you know? And she and her husband did a fantastic job raising him. And, you know, I think about how tough it is to be a parent and how tough it is to be a husband, to be a wife, you know, these things that we take for granted. How tough it is to be a good son or a good daughter. How tough it is to be a good friend sometimes. So maybe we should stop looking at measuring success so much in the way of material gains and maybe on who are we as people? Are we being the most successful that we can possibly be? I think it's maybe a different way to look at those things. think it's a good, great meditation, a good reminder. And I'm just gonna keep it at that today so I don't go into a 20-minute meditation today. Anyway, I love you guys and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.